Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 5, Text 7. Durvasa Muni's life spared. Tvatejasa dharma mayena samhritam tama prakashascha drusho mahatmanam duratyayaste mahima girampate tvadrupametat sadasat paravaram Tvatejasa dharma mayena samhritam tamah prakashascha drusho mahatmanam duratyayaste mahima girampate tvadrupametad sadasat paravaram. Ladies, please. Tvatejasa dharma mayena samhritam tamah prakashascha drusho mahatmanam duratyayaste mahima girampate tvadrupametat sadasat paravaram tvadharsa dharma mayena samhritam tamah prakashascha drusho mahatmanam duratyayaste mahima girampate tvadrupametat sadasat paravaram tvatejasa. By your effulgence dharmamayena, which is full of religious principles, samhrutam, dissipated, tamaha, darkness, prakashahascha, illumination also, drushaha, of all directions, mahatmanam, of great learned personalities, duratyayah, insurmountable, te, your, mahima, glories, girampate, O master of speech, tadrupam, your manifestation, etat, this, sadasad, manifested and unmanifested, para avaram, superior and inferior. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O master of speech, by your effulgence, full of religious principles, the darkness of the world is dissipated, and the knowledge of learned persons or great souls is manifested. Indeed, no one can surpass your effulgence, for all things, manifested and unmanifested, gross and subtle, superior and inferior, are but various forms of you that are manifested by your effulgence. Purport. Without illumination, nothing can be seen, especially in this material world. The illumination in this world emanates from the effulgence of the Sudarshana, the original vision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illuminating principles of the sun, the moon, and fire emanate from Sudarshana. Similarly, illumination by knowledge also comes from Sudarshana, because with the illumination of Sudarshana, one can distinguish one thing from another, the superior from the inferior. Generally, people accept a powerful yogi like Durvasa Muni as wonderfully superior. But if such a person is chased by the Sudarshan Chakra, we can see his real identity and understand how inferior he is because of his dealings with devotees. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It is interesting that the verse glorifies his illuminating effulgence, but he is addressed as Girampate, master of speech. So what is it about Sudarshan Chakra that he is the master of speech? He hasn't spoken at all. He has pursued Durvasa Muni for 3 chapters, all the way to the Vaikuntha realm. Hasn't spoken anything. So why is he master of speech? Girampate. Any guess? Why? He's a master of speech, he's called. In the past few chapters, from the time this pastime has begun, Sudarshan hasn't spoken a word. He simply followed Durvasa Muni in hot pursuit, baking his back, if you will. Baking, baking his back. But he didn't say anything. The purpose of his speech is to illuminate. He is effulgent just by his presence. Sometimes you say the most powerful things by being silent. Right? You can be very powerful in your speech by being silent. So he's been silent. This is my appreciation. I don't think that's the reason, but he's been silent, but he has shown he's very serious. He's very serious because he has baked Durvasa Muni's back into a nice thick crust. Now Sudarshan is very fast. From the time he left Krishna's finger and went to Shishupal's head, was like that. Previously also, when Krishna releases Sudarshan Chakra, he is so fast that before, here's the speed, right? I'll tell you. Mohini Murti, just few chapters ago. Mohini Murti, she was offering nectar to the demigods. Someone came and sat there in disguise. Rahu. And she poured a cup of nectar. Rahu drank it. But as soon as they realized that this is a demon, the Sudarshan Chakra came and cut off Rahu's head before the nectar could go down to his body. So now you see how fast Sudarshan is. By the time you drink some liquid, how quickly does it go down? Like that. But before it could go down his throat, head was severed from the body. So fast. So why didn't it kill Durvasa Muni? Why didn't Sudarshan kill Durvasa Muni? One, because Durvasa Muni is not a demon. Second, Durvasa Muni has to have some serious realizations. So the heat was, how it is said that, hey, keep the heat on the guy, put him on the hot seat. So he was put on the hot seat or the hot pursuit for a while. Not that Durvasa Muni can't run faster than Sudarshan. There's no way. So he kept him in the hot pursuit. Sometimes you keep a person pinned. So that way Sudarshan kept him pinned. And it is true. Sudarshan is considered Girampati because he illuminates. And this verse is a glorification of his illuminating potency. So he says, Tvat Tejasa, by your effulgence. And that effulgence has a characteristic. It says Dharma Mayena. Very interesting that someone's effulgence is full of religious principles. So a person can be illuminated by some artificial light, but when one is centered in Krishna consciousness or fixed in Krishna consciousness, they emanate a particular type of effulgence. And that effulgence is full of religious principles, which means that anyone who comes in contact with their effulgence or in their presence is affected very seriously by religious principles. Let's take Narada Muni. Narada Muni has his resume. If you ever get to hear Narada Muni's resume, he has transformed dacoits, highway robbers, murderers, butchers, demons, animals, birds, serpents. It goes through the whole range of living beings. Very fascinating resume. If you're doing You want a lead preacher and you want to hire them. Look at Narada Muni's resume, is like, wow, what a personality. And Narada Muni is also Girampati, because he knows what to say, when to say, how much to say, and where to say. Very, very expert. In Valmiki's case, he told him to chant Lord Rama's name in reverse. In Prachina Bari's case, he gave him a riddle. In the case of the Haryashvas and Shavalashvas, he told them, just drop everything and leave. Go join the ashram. In Kamsa's case, he said, what is this? You need to kill all the babies. In essence, he didn't say it like that, but basically he inspired Kamsa to not become such a good man. When Kamsa said, okay, Vasudev, you've kept your promise, then he put in Kamsa's mind a little treachery. He's like, come on, to speed it up so that Krishna will manifest. Like that, for different persons, Narada Muni has, and then when he came to meet Vyasadeva, he didn't mince any words. He basically told him, all the work you have done is a complete waste. I mean, you tell Vyasadeva, someone who can tell Vyasa, all that you've done is a complete waste. He says, no shobhate, there is no beauty in whatever you've done. He has done the most massive thesis in compiling all the Vedic literature, and he's looking for, can you give me some comment? And his superior says, this is trashy, there's nothing. In fact, it is like a pilgrimage for crows. Right? It's a heavy language there, first canto, 5th chapter. Very heavy. Imagine telling someone what you've written is where crows will enjoy. So Narada is also Girampati. Sudarshan, back to the Dharma Mayena, the presence of such a person brings a transforming experience. And the transformation is that they are affected by religious principles of truthfulness, cleanliness, austerity, tolerance, non-violence, etc. It's just the presence of a person like that. That they have that ability. So dharma mayena means just by their presence, a person feels that they want to follow and situate themselves in religious principles. And he says, tamah prakashascha drusho mahatmanam. Tamah prakashascha drusho. He is a person who can dissipate darkness, both in the literal sense and in the figurative sense. In the literal sense, this world is a place of darkness. So darkness because the mode of ignorance is quite prevalent. Therefore, we have something called night time. And we also have sleeping during Bhagavatam time. It's the same thing. It's just night time. Everything is dark. Because once you close your eyes, everything is dark. So effulgence is physically he emanates light. Because when there is light, you can distinguish one thing from another. Without any light, you can't. Everything looks the same. This is what Prabhupada's teaching is, right? In a dark room, you cannot distinguish a table from a chair, a floor from a carpet. As soon as there is light, everything is clear. Every entity's distinct position, place, and identity is clear. But he also illuminates figuratively within the heart, because the heart is also dark. It's dark because of the mode of ignorance. And the darkness is that one doesn't know one's true identity. You can't distinguish one from the other. So when there is no knowledge, a human being, let's take an animal. If a dog is standing, in front of the dog, a terrorist comes, a very beautiful woman comes, or a very handsome man comes, a politician comes, and a great saint comes. As far as the dog is concerned, he sees them with equal vision. So is the dog a pandita? Right? In the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. A truly learned person has equal vision. They don't distinguish one from the other. So is the dog a very learned entity? That he treats everyone the same, a dacoit, a good-looking person, a saint, a politician. So we must say that the dog is very highly acclaimed, effulgent personality. No, because in darkness, you can't distinguish one from the other. You put an ignorant person, and for them also, they can't distinguish one from the other. But a person who's in true knowledge can see distinction. This is a dacoit, this is a good-looking man, a good-looking woman, this is a politician, this is a saint. And a truly learned person beyond that will say, while they're very distinct, the soul within them is part and parcel of Krishna. Their bodies are very distinct. So I treat them with respect according to who they are and their position. This is activity of knowledge, although sees them with equal vision, meaning without any animosity or envy or any sense of partiality, but knows the distinction one from the other. In the impersonalist viewpoint, whether a sadhu walks in or a dog walks in, who can say, oh, it's the same? We don't. This is not proper. Although both are parts and parcels of Krishna, they're treated differently according to their position and realization of the truth. For that, one needs the heart to be illuminated. Another way darkness manifests is we have certain stereotypes that a devotee means they must be dressed like this, they must speak like this, they must look like this. Sometimes the pure devotee you cannot recognize. Isn't that the statement from the Mahabharata? That in a crowd of people, you cannot distinguish who the pure devotee is. Only when they speak, immediately they're separated from the crowd. As long as they don't speak, you can't tell. Why? Because all the wonderful realizations are hidden. So in Ramanujacharya's life, I think I mentioned this, no? One of his disciples was named Dasarathi. Okay, I'll tell you two stories, both from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, pastimes, and Ramanujacharya's pastimes. Ramanujacharya had a gathering, and they were all discussing wonderful Krishna Katha. Of course, when Ramanujacharya was speaking, everyone was captivated. One of Ramanujacharya's Siksha gurus, his name was Mahapurna. And Mahapurna had a daughter. So while Ramanujacharya was speaking to his set of students, and among the students were all the great accomplished personalities like Kuresha, Dasarathi, etc. They're all like, their resumes are just fascinating resumes, scholars beyond compare. Mahapurna's daughter came crying. So Ramanujacharya stopped his discussion and asked her, why are you crying? She said, I live in my in-laws' house. They behave like outlaws. I live in my in-laws' house. I have to walk a far distance every day to gather water from the well, these heavy pots. Then I have to cook. I have to cut all the vegetables, I have to clean the kitchen, take care of the house. It's very difficult. So right in the middle of the discussion, he turned to Dasarathi. Dasarathi, in one way, without insulting him, we can say he was like a super PhD from one of the Ivy League colleges. That was his. He told him, Dasarathi, go with her, go to her in-laws' house, and you do everything she was doing, gathering water, cleaning the kitchen, cutting vegetables, cooking. Imagine saying to someone who's so highly acclaimed, Ivy League, right? Super mass, professor type, to do something very, very demeaning in one sense. Not that what a wife does is demeaning. The point was, from his position, to ask him to do that service, in one sense, is very demeaning. And Dasarathi didn't say, I have a huge degree. He said, yes, Guru Maharaj. And no argument, quietly walked with her. And for months on end was in her kitchen, cooking, cleaning, gathering water. Nobody knew. Everyone knew who Dasarathi is, but nobody knew that this is Dasarathi in the kitchen. Because they all heard about him. He was very famous. But no one had seen him to know who he is. Because a person's fame travels a lot farther than a person himself or herself, right? Both notoriety and fame, they travel faster and wider. So then, one day, in her in-laws' home, certain sadhus came. They were all impersonalists. They had come for prasadam. And Dasarathi was in the kitchen. So they were sitting in the living room, talking. And their speech was all super impersonal Mayavad. And Mayavad, Advait philosophy is it is quite insulting to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His personality. Although it glorifies the impersonal feature, it also puts down the personal feature. So from the kitchen, with a serving spoon in his hand, a towel tied to his head, to stop the sweat, and, no shirt, dhoti up because he's cooking, Dasarathi walks out and he challenges the Pandit. And the Pandit looks at him and says, who are you? How dare you talk to such a esteemed, august assembly coming out of the kitchen? Do you know any philosophy? So in about 5 minutes, he completely destroys that scholar. To such a insulting degree that the scholar has to hang his head in shame. So they ask him, what is your name? He says, I'm Ramanujacharya's servant. My name is Dasarathi. Dasarathi. They all stood up and offered their respects and obeisances. Otherwise, they could not recognize. So this is the feature of a pure devotee. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, one personality, Karunanidhi, remind me the name. He came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he wanted to understand the meaning of certain aspects of the Bhagavatam or something. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent him to meet Ramananda Raya. So he said, you go talk to Ramananda Raya. He will tell you. So he went and he was told, oh, you've come to meet Ramananda Raya? Please sit down. He's busy with something. He'll come. So he waited. Ramananda Raya didn't come. He waited and waited and waited. Finally, he left the place. And so next time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met him, he asked him, oh, did you meet Ramananda Raya? No, he was very busy. It didn't happen. No, go back. So he went again. He was told, please sit down and come. So this time also he waited. He didn't meet Ramananda Rai. So he became curious. What is it that he's so busy with? So he peeped inside. And he saw that Ramananda Rai was dressing these young girls in preparing them for a particular dance for Lord Jagannath. Now, a person who's supposed to be renounced, although he is a very great person, does not do those things. So it seemed like he was behaving like a very ordinary materialist, touching young girls, dressing them up. And so it didn't compute for him. On the one hand, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says he is the greatest scholar. In fact, more than me, he'll be able to explain. Plus, he behaving like what we call Karmi Prabhu, like a materialist. These two don't match. It didn't match for him at all. And he was, as we say in the ISKCON language, bewildered. Because it doesn't, how can a person who's reputed to be like that behave like this? Because he thought, great Vaishnava scholar means, should be whatever, what in his mind he thought of a picture of a devotee. So when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, I didn't ask him. It was too much for me. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed that for a sannyasi, even seeing he said, even if I were to see a wooden doll of a woman, my mind would be disturbed. But Ramananda Rai, even when he's touching them, his mind is absolutely not in that gross at all. He's so transcendental that he's only absorbed in Lord Jagannath's service. So it's very difficult, the point is, it's very difficult to distinguish a pure devotee within a crowd of people. It's very difficult. And it's also very difficult to read a pure devotee's activity and say, why are they talking like that? Why they behave? You cannot. It's very, very difficult. Unless one is so illumined within that they can distinguish a pure soul, a pure sadhu from a charlatan or a pretender. When that illumination is not there in the heart, a charlatan and a pure person looks like a charlatan. Isn't this the characteristic of ignorance? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, religion looks like irreligion and irreligion looks like religion. So Sudarshan, the point is, Ambarish Maharaj is praying to Sudarshan that you remove the ignorance from within and without. So he says, Tad Rupametad Sadasat Para Avaram. Just by your presence, we can distinguish. Just as in the presence of light, we can distinguish one from the other, one entity from another, something superior from inferior. Similarly, your effulgence and by your mercy, we can distinguish that which is superior and that which is inferior. So what is superior? Krishna says something about superior and inferior energies, my dear Bhakti Shastri students. What is living entity? Which chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Come on, don't put me to shame. 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where he says that the material elements are my inferior energy. Bhinna prakritir me ashtada. And then he says, there is another energy of mine. Aparayam itastu anyam. Anyam means another. Apara, something that is superior. Aparayastu midam anyam. Prakritim vidime param. This is apara, the material energy is called apara, and I have another energy called para, and that energy is called jiva bhuta. The living entity is the superior and matter is inferior. When there is illumination in the heart, you can distinguish. And if there's no illumination in the heart, you take the body to be the self. It's darkness. You can't tell the distinguish. You can't tell the distinction one from the other. It's a very beautiful verse. Also says Girampati and why his effort. So now, any person or persons who illuminate us, especially in transcendental knowledge, are very, very special. And their speciality is that they give us the eyes by which we distinguish. Om Ajnana Timira Andhasya. Ajnana Timira Andhasya. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. Jnana Anjana Shalakaya. I was given the eyesight or vision of knowledge. Chakshur Unmilitam. And that person opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Of course, then to such a person, I should dedicate my life. Because before this, I was a fool, I was in ignorance and in bliss. But now, by the mercy of my spiritual master or masters, I'm not a fool, I'm not ignorant, I'm blissful. It's a different bliss. Because that vision brings knowledge brings happiness. Ignorance brings destruction. Therefore, knowledge was not given to ignorant people. They were made qualified for the knowledge, and the knowledge was given. So I'll end with this Panchatantra story. In a Gurukula, there was a teacher who had a special skill. He can bring someone back to life from the dead. That was a special skill. And he taught all his students that skill. And when they were graduating, he told them, be very careful. Be very careful how you use this knowledge. Knowledge can uplift you, but if you misuse it, it can kill you. Okay. So one of the fellows who didn't really learn it so well was walking through a forest. And he saw a small bone. He said, very interesting bone. What living entity must have such a bone? So he took the bone and he was walking. Further up, he found a bigger bone. And he started gathering all these bones. And he put them in line. And it seemed to be the tail of some animal. So naturally, his curiosity led him to say, I want to see if other bones also gather. He, like archaeologists, he gathered all the bones, put them all together. And it seemed like there was a nice tail, 4 legs, a fairly large skull. Since I have the skill my guru gave me to bring it back to life, I want to know if it works. It was not necessary, but I want to know if it works. So he sat down, did Achman, Om, Fat, Aha, Swaha, said the mantra. And suddenly all the bones came together. All the flesh, mucus, all came together. The skin came together. It's a big, massive lion stood in front of him. Killed him and ate him up. So he had the knowledge, just didn't apply it properly. He applied it for his own destruction. So sometimes certain curiosity should not be fulfilled. That's the point. Certain curiosity should not be fulfilled. There's a story of a monkey and a wedge that we heard in our childhood. You heard about the monkey and the wedge? Really? You want to hear about monkey and the wedge? Okay. There were 2 carpenters who had, they were loggers. So they had cut down a massive trunk of a massive tree and they were sawing the trunk to make it smaller logs. So it was a big sequoia, whatever tree. So at the end of the day, they stopped their shift. So when you remove the saw, the wood gets back. And it's difficult to start again. So they usually put a wedge. So they put a wedge so they can start next day from where they had left off. Up on the tree, a monkey was sitting. And he was looking at the carpenters working all day and then putting this wedge. So he was curious what that wedge thing is. Why is it there? Because he had never seen a wedge and he was very curious. What is that thing? What is that thing? So as soon as they left, he jumped down, sat on that big log of wood, fidgeted with the wedge. And it seemed to move a little bit. I thought, hey, something curious. And he removed the wedge. As soon as he removed the wedge, and the whole time he tried to withdraw his tail from the cut, he couldn't the whole night. And if your finger gets stuck or something, and the more you pull, the painful it gets, the more. The whole night he was trying to yank his tail out of that. And next morning, when the carpenters came back, they found a dead monkey with his tail trapped in the crack of the wood. So the story is, certain things, certain curiosities should not be fulfilled. Otherwise it will be like the monkey. So certain things, now what is that certain thing? How does that kind of sense gratification look like? Everyone seems to be having a good time. What is it? Little bit I want to try. Let's see what they bring. Then ready for the tail to be clamped. This is the monkey is considered ignorant and restless because he's restless in the mind. He wanted to fidget with it. Anyway, any comments, questions, thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to understand the point of the illumination of the heart.
Yeah.
And in comparison to like the mind and the heart, like we say, like we cleanse the heart and we'll see clearly, but is it correspond with the mind, or is it's the same thing, or is it different?
Very often, the mind and heart are used synonymously. Sometimes they're distinguished. The heart would mean, in many cases, the soul proper. And the mind is a covering of that soul. So when we say heart, most people think of heart like the organ heart. And so they ask a question, if you transplant a heart, does my soul go and someone else's soul come here? It's not the organ. It's the heart is the place of awareness, if you will. In that sense, the heart. Now, a lot of awareness is in the mind as well, because the mind is the medium through which awareness, emotion, feeling, cognition, they all arise. So many times synonymously they're used as the same. But when we say mind particularly, it has a material connotation to it. So we say heart as the seat of awareness. Because many times a person can be comatose. They may be in coma, where the mind is not functioning per se, but their awareness is. They just can't reciprocate through the mind or brain. uh, like a embryo, like an embryo. The embryo is conscious and aware, may not have feelings and thinking and all that fully developed yet. Right? A child, a newborn baby is aware, communicative, but not able to fully develop its feelings and desires and verbalize them. So you see a little distinction there in that sense. Of course, exactly what a baby thinks and all the desires, I don't know, because it can also offer prayers to Krishna in the womb. It's a little amorphous, but you get the idea. Subal Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. I was just thinking on the example that you gave of the disciples that learned the skill from the spiritual master and the cautious that you have to be very thoughtful how you use the skill, otherwise he can get back at you. So, how, as someone who receives a skill, a knowledge by which you can, that is taught in the service of the spiritual master, you can recognize when is being misused or not properly used, and in one sense for oneself as the one who's using the skill, and also from the other perspective of helping someone recognize that skill is not necessary. There's situations in which it may fire back at you. How, in both ways, for one to be aware and recognize symptoms that this is not working properly, and to help others become aware that maybe it's not the right thing.
There are certain decisions or, I guess, applications where there are life and death. And there are some that are experiential. There was a very successful businessman who made, millions and millions of dollars in his career. And he was once interviewed. And he was asked, "What is the secret of your success?" And he said, "Right decisions." Oh. So the person who's interviewing was a little bit more curious, because that's not enough, right decisions. No, please, can you explain more? How did you make these right decisions? I said, experience. Okay, please say more, just one word of experience. How did you get all these experiences? I said, wrong decisions. So some persons have to be, in fact, not some person, let me backtrack. Person learns from certain decisions. I think about a year or 2 years ago, Kalakanta Prabhu was sitting here, and in the morning Bhagavatam class he had made a statement, which is, I really appreciated very much, that there is actually nothing called a good decision or a bad decision. There is nothing called a right decision or a wrong decision. Everything is just a decision and its consequences of that decision. Of course, we do say there are some wrong decisions. Going out and breaking the principles, we say it's a wrong decision. But for that person, the decision and the consequences that come from that decision. And with that consequences, a person is supposed to learn. That's why this whole material world is created, so we learn the consequences of a decision that we had made. So, good advice is not telling someone what decision to make, but good advice is to educate a person on the consequences of their decisions and help them think through, if you make this decision, what are those consequences? If you make that decision, what are those consequences? Are you willing to live with those consequences? But the decision making is an individual's prerogative, not someone else's. Like, no one can tell me, make this decision, don't make that decision. They can advise me as a friend, as a well-wisher, as a spiritual master, but no one can force me. Do this. Cannot. So I have to be educated. This is one of the things I learned from our spiritual master, that decision making means you educate a person beyond that action to what the consequences will look like, may look like. No one has the insight into exactly how it will look like, may look like. And you give them sufficient strength to make choices that are favorable for Krishna consciousness. And that's it. Can't do more than that. This is about making decision. I'll tell you about our spiritual master. A very simple thing, but a profound lesson. About, I would say 10 years ago, he had just arrived from an international trip. Jet lag and all that, right? So he had arrived at about afternoon, 4 o'clock or so. And a few of us were invited for a meeting with him at 6 o'clock in the evening. So he had landed a few hours ago, had a little prasadam, and jet lag was so intense. So he took a nap with an alarm that will wake him up, so he will be there for 6 o'clock. Or whatever, the jet lag was so intense or whatever. 6 o'clock, he didn't come out of his room, and we were all waiting, 4 of us waiting to speak with him. And he had invited us. 6:15, 6:30, and none of us wanted to knock on his door or wake him up and say, Guru Maharaj, how will you do that? He's the spiritual master. So we told the person in whose house he was staying, no, please don't wake him up. We'll wait, let's see. It was almost 7 o'clock. And suddenly he woke up and he said, how long have you been waiting? So the devotee said, 1 hour. So he turned to the person in whose house he was staying. He said, why didn't you wake me up? So I think all of us said, no, we didn't want to disturb you because you were resting. It's jet lag, or you came from such a long travel. And he very curtly or straight said to the person, don't make my decisions for me. Whether I want to rest or I want to meet the devotees is my decision. Don't make my decision for me. You wake me up and let me decide. Why are you deciding for me? And it hit because, of course, we were not thinking like that, but he was teaching a very nice point. That don't make my decision for me. Don't decide what I will do for me. It was a fantastic lesson. So then, over the years, as we were driving to the airport once, he took the same principle and spoke it. And he said, a good teacher, because we were driving to the airport and I was asking something, I forget the context, something about IIT preaching and something. And he turned to me and he said, a good teacher is not one who expects from their students. But a good teacher is one who expects for their students. And he smiled and left it. And I scratched my head trying to figure out why only one word would make such a big difference. So then I wrote like a little understanding. I used to write every week, and he would really appreciate it, because I haven't written in a long time. But I would write every week. It was part of my thing. And I said, what I understand is expecting from a student means. A teacher has this thing that I gave you this knowledge, I gave you the skill, now you need to give back to me. And you give back to me by doing what I tell you to do. This is expecting from. And he said, expecting for means I gave you this knowledge, I gave you this skill, I gave you this insight. Now I'd like you to consider that in a grateful mode and make a decision or whatever that you need to do in a way that you know will help your Krishna consciousness. You have my blessing. And that was a revolutionary thought for me. It's like, my gosh, in one statement, he gave like a profound, how to cut yourself, me, as because it's about IIT, how to cut myself out of this whole dynamic that because I have given you this much payback, come on. It has helped me in my preaching and in my service to the devotees a lot, where you give without the... So sometimes you see them making whatever decision that you may think is not the right one. It's like, oh, really? Really? But as a person supporting, we say, are you sure? Have you thought through? Have you thought through all the consequences? Can you give me some understanding of what you think the consequences will look like? What about that scenario? Okay, have you thought of this scenario? Okay, do you feel you can make this decision and live with what will come from it? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, you have my full blessings. And if it doesn't work out for you, I'm always here for you. Always, always here for you. Rain or shine, I'm here for you. But we don't say, told ya, I told you this is going to suck, you didn't listen to me. Okay, whatever it is, you have my full support. If everything crashes down completely, I'm still here for you. If it doesn't crash for you and it really turns out great, I'm always here for you. I'll give you a reference since you asked the question, I don't know the context, but I'm going to give you a reference as of course, who am I to give you, but a reference for meditation for a person giving, guidance and advice to other devotees in that spirit. In Rishabdev's teachings, in the 5th canto, 5th chapter, I forget the verse number right now. The verse starts with Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahor Vimukte. Mia Sab, you know the verse? Tamo Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. Mahantaste Samachitta Prashantaye Vimanyava Sadhava Suhridaye. So it says basically, forget the explanation. In that verse, there is one word, Vimanyavaha. Manya means to become angry. And Vimanya means to not be angry. And in the purport, Prabhupada defines Vimanyava, that a person who is a giver of Krishna consciousness has this quality because whoever he or she is giving to, when they don't respond back the way they should, or they actually respond against, still the person does not become angry at them. And the reference quoted is Lord Nityananda. So that word Vimanyava has been a savior word for me. Every time I find myself, that word comes to save my life. So I'm sharing. It's a very, very beautiful verse, fantastic word used right there by Rishabdev, Vimanyava. And Prabhupada's explanation is the crowning jewel of that word. I don't have it in front of me, but it's there in the 5th canto, 5th chapter. Sorry for a long-winded answer, but I hope that's of some service to you. Anything else?
Nityananda Pran Prabhu, you were describing the difficulty of being able to distinguish a highly elevated devotee or a purified devotee from, say, a common man.
Right.
So, within the realm of one's own reality, there may be different levels of devotees or, different degrees to which the heart is illuminated, as to use your phrase. So since you had pointed to the illumination of the heart being the particular factor that allows for the distinction to be made, it may naturally happen that an error can happen, that because the heart is illuminated that much, one can see that much.
Or intermittently,
Okay.
on and off. Suddenly there's light, one day there's no light, there's the light again, there's no light again.
So,
Like the bulbs can go out.
If that's the case, naturally there's, if it's intermittent, there's room for error. And
Sure.
if it's, or even if it were to have been continuous illumination, it's still to a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
So now, an error can happen naturally.
Sure.
In that kind of case. So then, let's say an error does occur and a person has utilized the level of illumination that's present in the heart, or has, the illumination that's been endowed from performance of devotional service, and to the best of their ability they're applying. And but there's an error in the application. It may be that the judgment wasn't used correctly, wrong situation to apply,
Sure.
Wrong moment, not recognition of another devotee's particular purview of something.
Any of 1 million reasons.
So in that particular case, it may be a little bit of a sensitive issue to draw somebody's attention to, with all due respect, the illumination of the heart has permitted this much vision, but the judgment is not correct in this circumstance. So then it's a delicate area. So what would your recommendation be that, with all due respect, one can draw attention to the judgment not being correct?
People don't respond to what words we use, how we say. I'm sharing because I guess our spiritual master once told me, people don't care what you say to them. They don't remember how you said to them, but they will always remember how you made them feel. So you can say the right words, you can give Shastrik Shloka. If you make them feel something other than that, or condescended upon, or looked down, or whatever it is, they will always remember how they were made to feel. That means not only the right words, but also the right time, but with the right spirit. Now that spirit is, if any of us comes to such a person with the spirit of, I genuinely want to serve you, so you have better insight, they will appreciate it very much. If it is just from a point of view of correcting them, they may appreciate it, but they may not take it with them. It doesn't become a life lesson. So there is always room for educating each other. In fact, it should be that we all educate each other, because none of us is perfect. We all need to educate each other. And Krishna says, in that mutual education, a person is very happy and satisfied. Madgata madchita prana bodhayantascha parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Same is spoken in 11th canto. Parasparanu kathanam pavanam bhagavati yashaha mito tushtir mito ratihi nivrita mita atmanaha. Basically, that when devotees get together, they educate each other, they help each other on the basis of Krishna or Krishna Katha, so that certain insights are illuminated and certain dark spaces are removed, blind spots or whatever they are, they're removed. And the other person who's on the receiving side should be very jubilant. Oh, thank you, I didn't realize that. Thank you, this is going to help me. Versus, why are you telling me? I don't know. Whatever is the dialogue that happens. But this is good. I'm appreciative that someone is telling me. That's fantastic. You know, it's like walking around with spinach in your teeth. When you smile, everyone sees the spinach except ourselves, right? We don't know. And if nobody tells us, Prabhu, there's some spinach in your teeth. If nobody tells us, and we go out and meet some important people. Hey, hi. And they're like, what did you have? Palak paneer for lunch? But if someone tells us, then we appreciate, oh, thank you. I can't see it. Others can see it. So it's how they're, what spirit we go with, and make sure that they feel that I'm here for simply serving you. Just scratching your nose? Or you have something? Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you for joining us.